All right, we'll start our meeting this evening. Then we have two public hearings. The first one is a discussion on the Public Act 17-155, an act concerning the temporary health care structures. Happy New Year to everybody. It's so impressive that especially you, Schatz, that you don't have enough of a hangover to still have to make it somehow. I know what you're doing.
Are you targeting me up? We just started in the new year.
All right.
Is that a fake tan or did you spray it out?
There you go. It's real. I'm embarrassed to say it's real. So we'll open up the hearing to have a discussion about Public Act 17-155. Is there anybody here to speak? All right. So, is everybody familiar themselves with this is a Public Act, Substitute Senate Bill 922. It's an act concerning temporary health care structures. Actually, Mr. Skolnick, I was thinking that maybe you might be the expert on this.
Far from an expert, but this will be.
But I know you're
my
probably better at
third time being exposed to it. It essentially provides for temporary structures on private property for the purpose of accommodating somebody in need of temporary home health care who might otherwise not be a member of that household, but a relative. There are many particulars related to that, some of which are quite onerous, like septic hookup and water hookup, that in my estimation would make this an infrequent option for most. There is a provision in the statute allowing towns to apply to opt out of its provision.
Yeah, so the main thing we're here to talk about whether this is a good idea or not. It seems that most municipalities are actually opting out of it. Is that correct? At least that's what I was reading.
I know that Bethany has applied to opt out of it.
And Hamden.
If that's so, I have no reason to dispute it, but Bethany is the one that I know for sure.
So what are these? Are these pods? What are they?
Well, you're allowed to actually bring in a temporary structure, but it is a temporary structure. It can't have a foundation. You're basically pulling in for lack of anything else, a trailer.
It's a trailer.
So that's what you're pulling onto your property, and the healthcare person and the person that needs the impaired person also can be living in there with the healthcare person. And so it talks about the square footage, but it still has to be hooked up to sewer, it still has to be hooked up to water, it still has to be hooked up to electrical, possibly through the house or not. One of the things is it only gives you one of the main reasons to opt out is that it doesn't really give you enough time to study this after the application. It only gives you 15 days. You have to make a decision in 15 days, which is somewhat of a problem. Most places. So I think that by opting out, we're not saying that people can't have people to help them with healthcare, but we're encouraging it in the house as opposed to in the yard kind of thing. So one of the requirements was to have a public hearing on it. We did talk about it before. So Does that pretty much cover what?
It's a good summary.
There you go. All right. Okay, so if there isn't any more discussion from the audience, we'll close the hearing on this. All right. The next item on the agenda for a public hearing was the modification and clarification of sections 3.1.2.12 of item number 12 of the zoning regulations for the town of Woodbridge. So we have not actually gotten a we haven't gotten a response, a complete response from Scrog. So we had, in their last meeting, they've since come and asked questions. Chris, you should probably send everybody that letter you sent to them with the questions and the answers that we've given them, especially Andrew. So when he goes to the next meeting. So we need to open the public hearing because we called for the public hearing, but then we need to continue it. But we need to continue it, we need to give a date. So the Scrog meeting is on the 11th, I think, I'm pretty sure. So, and I'm assuming that we'll be fine once we've already answered their questions. And so if people could look at their calendars for the week of the 15th or the week of the 22nd.
I'm out the week of the 22nd, I'll be away.
All right. How about the week of the 15th?
I'll be here.
Okay.
It's Martha Luther King.
That's
The Mondays.
That Monday's Martin Luther King, yeah.
It's fine.
Can we get information on the limitations that other towns put on when we consider this?
The modification?
Yeah.
What are the towns, what do you mean?
I mean, what other towns have addressed the problem?
It's a residential and business district.
Yeah. Or it's, correct.
Well, we can have, we'll have Leslie here to answer questions. And then we also have an attorney that's going to be working with us that was engaged by the town to work with us on our zoning, mostly on our zoning regulations. That we're going to be going, Mary Ann Dubuque and her associate, Jean, will be we used to have an attorney that we used to refer things to, but so now we have another one, especially since we have new regulations coming up and everything. So I've actually already sent to her the regulations that Leslie's been working on to get her input, but she'll be here. You can ask her those questions then as well. I don't want to get into a discussion since we're kind of continuing the public hearing.
I don't want to get into a discussion either, I just like additional information.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Mr. Chairman, we should note for the record that late this afternoon, you were distributed and we did receive a letter from James Urbano commenting on those modifications and clarifications. So that was just distributed to you this evening. So we just note that for the hearing record. And this would be Exhibit 1A.
Okay, that's fine. We can read those into the record at the public hearing. So how does people's calendars look the 17th or 18th?
I can't do this. 17th is a Wednesday? Yeah, I can't do that.
18th would be okay?
Okay.
Mr. Stolnick?
Okay.
So why don't we say that we're going to continue this until the 18th of January,
It's Thursday.
a Thursday?
Any chance we can start earlier than our normal 7:30?
I think that's a great idea. What time do you want to start?
6:30.
6:30, yeah,
Yeah.
early.
6:30? Let's do it. 6:30.
I'll have to find a room for you, so as soon as I find it, I'll include that in the notice. Because there are budget hearings that are going on, and I'm not sure if this room is being used. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
Try to start at 6:30.
Well, we'll still shoot for 6:30.
Great.
All right. So you have the Perkins application in the work session, but you need to really, we haven't heard the Perkins app for the,
Right, because it was received at last month, so it automatically would go into the work session, so that's why it's there.
okay. So receiving appropriate action for applications for an 824 referrals, Mr. Urbano's application. So I know he submitted his application, but it's fairly incomplete. So I don't know where it stands as it is now.
We have plans that will be coming, both site plans and architectural renderings, but because of the holiday, they were unable to be completed for your meeting this evening. So if it's your so desire, you could schedule it. You need to start a hearing within 65 days of when you receive it, unless the applicant gives you an extension of time. So you could just schedule it to start not at your February meeting, but at your March meeting, so that way if plans come in, you'd be able to look at them at your February meeting, make sure that everything is here that you want, and then we would have the hearing in March if that's what your desire is.
Question, the 65 days starts from when?
From the date of receipt, that application is being received this
Isn't
evening.
it receipt of a completed application?
It doesn't make any difference if it's complete or not. You receive an application, whether it's
And so
incomplete
even
or
if
not.
it's just a one-page, totally inaccurate?
There were some.
No, I'm just asking.
There were some minor plans that were with it. The full plans are coming, but because of the holiday, they weren't able.
No, I understand that.
So hopefully you will have them for your February meeting. And as I say, you could schedule the hearing for March. And then if for some reason you feel that you need more time, you can always ask the applicant for an additional extension of time in which to start the hearing.
When was the application filed?
It was filed the day of your last meeting on December 4th, so the actual receipt date is this evening because an application to be received needs to be submitted 24 hours in advance.
So our time starts today.
Your time starts today, correct?
Okay. So as long as, I mean, we have a list of all the things that need to be done in his application, which I didn't see any of that in there, so I just want to make sure he's aware of the things in our regulations that's required in his application, that's all. So I'll leave that up to you. And it would be really helpful if we can request that he at least get us the full application at least 10 days before the hearing so that people can actually come in and look at it if they need to.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. If we schedule the hearing for March,
I understand that,
Thinking
but
that everything-
scheduling it in March is okay, but that doesn't say to him that he has to have everything 10 days before. So I'm seeing if we can request that from him.
we most certainly can.
Okay.
And that's our normal procedure, to have stuff in advance of the hearing so people can see.
All right, cool. So then we'll schedule it for the March meeting.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's move on to, actually, let's stick to the Town of Woodbridge 4 Meeting House Lane. They have a Connecticut General Statute 824 referral regarding the proposed installation of an ADA compliant lamp for the Woodbridge Senior Center.
Mary Ellen and Jeanette and Pat Crisco are present to answer any questions that you might have regarding the referral. If you want to come forward to the table.
We also have our chair, Sharon.
Hello, good evening.
So if you can just kind of quickly just explain what they're doing
Sure.
anyway.
As part of the Small Cities program we had, as people, as the money was returned to the town from the Small Cities grants that we did for housing rehabilitation, it becomes what's called program income. And we had planned on using that program income for the bathroom in the senior center. And we'd also like to use it for what you see at the drawing for the ramp, an ADA accessible ramp on the front of the building, which would go from where the front doors are down the right and into the first level. We have to put in doors down there. So there would be access. The issue now is if the seniors are in the senior center and say there's a fire drill and the elevator is shut off, those people in wheelchairs have to be literally carried out. There's no way to get them out. It's a serious problem. As
So-
the girls can attest to.
I would just add to that, as we're calling it an ADA accessible ramp, it is more, better defined as an emergency exit, which is sorely needed. If you've ever been down there with 20 wheelchairs and a fire alarm and no access to an elevator, you would understand walkers, canes, and people with no egress.
It's about 1/3 of the attendees come to the center on a daily basis. And there's no way they would fit in the area of refuge. We've had several fire alarm drills, and it's been very difficult. And over the years, this is something we've looked at many times. We've had many people come in and look at the building, and really this is our best recourse.
Even with temporary ramps, ones that could just go on the stairwells. There's just no room and no ability to access them.
We visited 5 senior centers, and several of them were in older town buildings. One of them that we looked at that is similar on the side there is in Westbrook, and the accommodation was made very easily, and we felt that this would be the appropriate area. And then when Gill and Gill came in, they drew up the drawings.
They also, they applied for grants, but since the state has been not too forthcoming with the funds, that's why we're hoping to use these funds, and we need to do it all at the same time.
It's cheaper than a train station lounge.
There you go. Yeah, we weren't close. The drawings have been reviewed by Terry Gilbertson, and he had one, on this particular one good kind of access about a drainage system, and that's going to be definitely addressed by the builder.
Cool. Any questions from the commission? Personally, I vote for the senior center being moved for the WCC. I'm only one person.
We'll need a ramp there too, thank you.
That's okay. It's a nicer spot. It's not 6 feet under.
And a flat parking lot.
Yeah.
In a flat parking lot. All right. Any other questions?
Ladies, whoever spoke, could you just sign in on the sign-in sheet in front of you, please? Thank you.
I think it's fair to say that over the years you've explored numerous alternatives to this project. I can recall a temporary ramp and a staircase that was proven not to work. The elevator, any elevator, while we're presently compliant, it's frustrating because of the large population that's in the senior center. It's one of our hardest working buildings, the center building. This much needed bathroom it's always a pressing problem. And I think that they very carefully minimize the impact to the building while keeping, it's much in keeping as the present structure, so.
And I will add that we've had long talks with the garden club, and so the secret garden that's there will be worked into this design, and we're hoping to make use again of that fencing that's there and not waste anything, and have Adam Parsons move plants. We're hoping that it will be a beautiful entrance.
Okay.
Just not going to step on any toes.
That's clearly a lot of work. But thanks. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So the next item is the Perkins.
Chairman, would you like me to bring the easel up? The drawings, is that necessary?
Yeah, probably help everybody.
Yep.
Sure, if you don't mind.
Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Joe Pereira. I'm a principal and professional engineer for Pereira Engineering. Here before you tonight, representing Perkins Kids. The site sits on Lucy Street, next to M&M Oil. There's a residential property next door and another commercial property. I think it's an auto body shop across the street. Property currently is undeveloped. What we're looking to do is propose a new overflow parking lot for Jonathan Perkins Law Firm. 18 spaces. We're proposing a new bike rack, drainage system, stormwater management system, and we've got substantial landscape buffers around the entire property. We'll also be enclosing it on 3 sides with a new fence for privacy. Pretty straightforward, not much to it. Again, Jonathan Perkins graphically sits diagonal from this site,
Right.
so it's close by. They can monitor the site from where they are. Again, it's relatively small, 18 spaces.
What kind of fence is sticking out?
It'll be, I believe, a white vinyl fence.
How tall?
I'm sorry, we're showing a wood screen fence, and it'll be, I believe, 6 feet around the 3 sides, and there's one side over here where we're going to end it short just to maintain visibility. And on this side, we're cutting it back to the edge of the house, so we're not going right to the edge of the property, just to maintain some visibility.
And I think you had a landscaping plan as well.
Yes. And that's included. That's the last page in the package.
What percentage of the lot will be paved?
Let's see. It might be in our drainage report. If you give me a second, I can find it for you. The site itself is 0.24 acres. And let's see. Impervious area is 5,640. So Do some rough numbers. So we're at about 53%, so slightly over half. So again, it's, this is substantially more landscaping than we normally provide. The reason why we're doing this just doesn't lend itself to putting in more parking and other road parking. So to keep that parking laid out in the center of the property, you just end up with a nice border on the ends.
And that border will be sufficient to accommodate the stormwater?
Yes, yeah, stormwater management system is actually located right in the parking lot. And then we got 2 overflow catch basins right at the edge of the driveway. DOT has already reviewed the drawing. We have an approval letter from them. The only thing they ask for is they want a copy of the city and town approval. Everything else is, they want a bond and insurance, but everything else is straightforward. So it's a relatively simple project from their perspective as well.
So the only kind of unfortunate thing is in our new regulations, we would prefer to have seen a building along the street there. But we get it. So, and we can always put the building later,
Yes.
I guess. So I strongly encourage all the landscaping. I'm not sure about I hope it's a wood fence and not a vinyl fence. But,
Yeah.
so. Yeah. And one of the things, obviously, since we don't love parking lots, is if the vegetation that's along Lucy Street there is a little bit on the higher side so that you're not looking at the cars. I don't know what the heights of the stuff that's there is, but.
Yeah, I believe these landscape architects has 2 ornamental trees up front, and then I believe the rest are shrubs. It's got some bayberry.
I think the ornamental trees are more in the corner. There's nothing really that fronts the road that's really going to prevent the trees from being seen. I mean, it'd be nice if something could be higher. Bayberry is what's proposed there, and bayberry is not really that. I mean, it's a shrub.
Right.
It doesn't really get
It's
that tall.
actually an invasive shrub.
It is invasive.
Is there something the commission would prefer? We can easily revise
Anything
it.
but bayberry.
Anything but bayberry.
Bayberry's horrible. Well, I mean, boxwoods, put some forsythia in there, roadies. But something, if it's up a good 3-4 feet, that means when you're driving down the road and you're not looking at this.
We want to screen the cars, basically. We're going to look for a shrub that will screen the cars preferably all year long. Evergreen, ideal. Okay. We can easily revise
It's
that.
not invasive.
Right.
It's not invasive. Bayberry's a terrible bush.
No problem. It's still on paper. It's easy to revise, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Mountain laurel would be nice, but mountain laurel wouldn't survive in that area.
Mountain laurel would be good though.
Too sunny. Anyhow, it'd be nice if there could be some effort made to make
Sure.
it something that's going to be non-invasive and that will grow high enough to be a screen.
No problem.
Yeah. Shrubs are actually not just trees, you just see the trunks and then you see through them. It's a nice shrub.
Any other questions? Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor or opposed to the application? All right.
Oh, that's not good,
We can ask them both.
Is there any plan for a crosswalk?
Not at this point, no.
Because I find it problematic that, I mean, I know exactly where these are, but we're gonna get people crossing the street there. Nobody's gonna walk to either end,
Right.
cross where there's a crosswalk,
Right.
and then come back.
You know, it is a state road. We can run it by DOT and get some feedback from them. I don't know if we can
Is
just
Lucy
throw.
Street's a
Street?
street.
Lucy Street's
State
a state
road.
road?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Really?
It
What's
is.
the shortest state road that there are?
Right.
Oh my God, you learn something new every day.
So I don't know that we can just propose a crosswalk there. And if they wanted one, they would have suggested because they already gave us the review letter.
No, but it's not out of the question because they do put crosswalks on state roads.
I mean, what I can say is, can they phrase it as a suggestion and have DOT look at it? Because DOT does want a copy of the approval letter. If you state it as a suggestion, that's what they consider. So maybe that's the way to approach it.
Yeah, I would love to even make it stronger than a suggestion. Because the reality is, people are going to cross there. And
And people are driving up and down that road.
I just don't want to get caught between CONDOT and you guys, because if it's a condition of approval here and you're requiring it, and then DOT says we don't want it, then I'm stuck and I gotta come back.
yeah.
So, not that we don't want to do it, I think if you phrase it as a suggestion, then, based upon their approval.
Well, I think we can put strongly encouraged.
Strongly
Yeah, that's fine.
Bold.
Yep. Because I think mid-block, we'd have to put a sign and not just a crosswalk, or we'd have to put it at the corner.
Well,
Well, we want to slow things down, so
yeah,
that's fine.
that's the thing. Slowing things down there is fine. And the road, frankly, is one of the roads in that area that floods when we get too much rain per unit time.
Right.
And it floods there, that contributes to the erosion of the surface, so people do speed up there, and everything else about it is not good either. So
Okay.
if it even makes them look at it, does one of those tests where they see what the traffic is in that area. I mean, anything to make it safer, right?
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I move to approve, subject to two things, putting a strong suggestion that crosswalk, as well as changing of the shrubbery.
Along Lucy Street to be a height that's greater than the height in front of the car, so 3-4 feet.
Yeah.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion on opting out the authorization for the installation of temporary healthcare structures as provided by the Public Act 17-155?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Point of order. I wasn't here last time when it was brought before us. Am I sitting for this one to vote?
The hearing was this
It's now.
evening.
You
Just making
are
sure.
hearing everything.
That's just making sure. That's what I thought, because I read through the stuff before, but just clarifying.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain since I missed the vote.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
okay.
Garage door is frozen.
Exactly. The Jim Romano application, we've set that up for a public hearing for the March meeting. And we're going to notify him as far as the following the regs as far as other things that are required for a full application, and strongly encourage us to at least see the application 10 days before so that other people can be looking at it as well. Before the March meeting.
Correct.
Okay. The town of Woodbridge, do we vote on this, or is this just a given?
The 824,
Yeah.
you typically vote on
Okay. Is there a motion to
So move.
let people get out?
So people do.
it. I'm sorry, who seconded?
All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Reported activities described. So, are you going to be able to build your land?
I am. What were the questions? Because the staff recommendation was the proposed zoning regulation amendments do not appear to cause any negative intermunicipal impacts to the towns in the south central region, nor do there appear to be any impacts to the habitat or ecosystem of the Long Island salmon. So what questions did they have?
They had two specific questions that they were looking for. They wanted to know why the area was being reduced.
Are you looking at the minutes?
I'm looking at the agenda, and the agenda is
Yeah.
quite
The
thick.
agenda for the next meeting?
No, this was the agenda for the last meeting,
Yeah, right.
December 14th. And each action item has reference to further pages in the agenda, and there's always a staff recommendation, and 99.9% of the time, that does it.
Well, they called up, I mean, I think when Chris called them.
I went to check because I hadn't gotten a letter from them, and what Eugene had asked was two particular things. Why was it not applying to the whole GB district? And I explained what the rationale for that was. And then the second thing was, why was there a reduction in size in the area? So.
Okay. If you can email me that response, and I'll make sure I bring it with me to the January 11th meeting and support it.
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, because I wasn't there.
Oh, that's right. As far as updating on the zoning regulations, we have passed on the regulations that Leslie's been working on to Mary Ann to review and give her input to Leslie on the stuff that we're doing. And then I'm hoping that in February we could start going to more informational meetings on those regulations that we're trying to do. At the end of February.
When are we looking for public hearing?
Probably not till March. Well, we can go to a general meeting, informational meeting, maybe end of February, beginning of March, and then do our public hearing after that.
We have to send the whole thing to Scott.
Yes. I still think we have a fair amount of stuff to get done, go through before. I know you didn't give it to us, but I can't find the backside of the.
No, I gave everybody a fresh one.
That's, I know. Correspondence, consideration and appropriate action regarding correspondence received since the December 4th regular meeting of the Commission. Notice of the decision of the Connecticut City Council regarding modifications proposed by AT&T to the telecommunication facilities at 50 Woodfield Road. Okay, and we have approval of minutes. So, the October 2nd and December 4th meeting minutes. I guess on the, December 2nd, this paragraph that's in bold, it says, "It was noted for the record." I mean, when we received a response from Scrog, and that's just attached to it, I don't know why we would,
I'm sorry.
on the October 2nd meeting, at the bottom it says it was noted, but I feel better if somebody was saying that XYZ noted it. I think it's probably just included and we received. I think it really just needs to say it was received from Scrog.
I gotta make a general comment.
Okay.
I find it disconcerting when I read through these that the person changes as we read. For example, in the very first one, James Urbano, applicant, was present to discuss, and it talks about, okay, the tower is proposed. We are asking, so that we is Jim, and then it's Mr. Urbano. I think it should be consistent. I get that some, it says we all the way through, and it's clearly, so the one about Grimaldi's Pizza, it's Mr. Casello presented as follows, and it's all we. I think it's fine. But I think when it changes and goes back and forth, and the person changes, I find it disconcerting. And I also, these are the first minutes I'm aware of where, so for example, on page 5, where Karen Lombardi, Animal Control Officer, she expresses, what she's expressing, but it goes back and forth from it being, she understands the concept, and then says, you are saying that the dogs, and I take it seriously. I just think it needs to be, the grammar needs to be cleaned up so it's clear who's saying what.
These particular minutes were written by Tammy from the tape, so
Yeah.
she was not here.
Right.
And in all honesty, normally I will go through them and edit them, but in this particular case, they came the exact day of your meeting last month. And so I just copied them and put them straight out to you, so I did not do my normal review of them, to correct and change concepts like that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because it just, I don't think a town should be putting out minutes that are
Yeah, I agree.
that unclear in some instances, so that's all. I don't. Other than that, I thought the context was accurate.
Well, I find it confusing because kind of down the same road, but I find like who actually said X, Y, Z. It goes along with what you're saying. You were a little more specific. Sometimes it says X, then sometimes it says we, and
Right. I don't care if they say, so-and-so spoke, so-and-so said the following, colon, quotes, or offset it, and then it can all be the first person. But let's be consistent in a paragraph about how it's written so that it's clear who's speaking. The one point where Karen Lombardi says, if the commission approves of this, you are saying, well, that's her opinion. We're not actually saying it. And so it just needs to be, I just think it needs to be clear. That's all. I'll stop. Period.
good point. Well, we have you. It's okay.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Is there a motion to approve the October 2nd minutes with the amendments?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion to approve the minutes from the December 4th meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Kathleen?
I wasn't here, so I'm abstaining from anything.
Discussion, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And I abstain. But these were better, dramatically speaking.
It was a tighter meeting.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
I get the October 2nd
The
meeting
October
was a very
2nd
long
meeting
meeting. When I read
was-
through it, I was like, oh my God, I forgot we did all of this in this one meeting.
Yeah,
But
I was, there's a lot of passion.
Motion to adjourn?
yeah, second.
All those in favor say aye. Very good.